All right, welcome back, everybody. So we're going to be talking to a principal now. This is my kind of story, and yours as well. Yeah. I know you love these too. We're stopping on the politics for a while and everything that's consuming us to focus on some amazing South Africans that, under all the stresses and strains of everyday life, and everyday life we include the whole of this, the COVID anxiety and the closing of schools and everything around that. But our next guest has still managed to achieve greatness in terms of being nominated and winning the award of the best principal. And this is an award that's been given to him. So we'll chat to him in just a minute or two.
Absolutely special. And you know, all credit to him, because, you know, when we talk about how people need to come into, step into their own role and greatness, this is one of those stories that shows you the difference that an individual can make.
It is so important. So let's begin this conversation with our star principal. And that, of course, is South Africa's Dr. Ngwako Stephen Sebopetsa. He's the principal of Rathaga Primary School in Limpopo, and he's been honored with an International Best Principal Award. He's 61 years old, was recognized during the 2021 Global Principals Awards for excellent leadership, significant work, and contribution in the field of education. Sebopetsa, who is the principal at the Rathaga Primary School, joins us now, and he came out on top of the more than 200 talented principals from across the world. It is so good to have you on the program. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Leana.
Yeah, it's so good to have you, and congratulations on your award.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Fantastic. Tell us, sir, how did you receive the news?
No, it came as a shock and surprise at the same time, because I was not expecting that from me. As I see other people competing in other categories of maybe of sports, I never thought one day I will be one of those people that are going to be appreciated by the international community.
Man. Well, I mean, this is just, it's such great news, and what an honor to have. I mean, it's not the first time that you've won an award, because I know back in 2012, you were also named second runner-up at the National Teaching Awards by the Department of Basic Education here in South Africa. What is it that you do that is so right? Well, what do you think it is that you are doing that's making you win these accolades?
Maybe because of having a commitment towards my work, and also hard work. I didn't become a teacher because of money, but because of the love and the passion of being a teacher.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I think the kind of work that you do is driven by passion, nothing more, because I can imagine, like every job, it comes with a lot of challenges, but to do your job with passion almost takes away those challenges. But perhaps in this time, what are some of the greatest challenges that you're facing, obviously with the COVID pandemic?
Yeah, as of now, as a principal, we have a problem of learners who are faced in different categories because of the impact of COVID. Schools differ in terms of how they face in their learners. For big schools, it's a very big challenge because learners cannot be accommodated at the same time at the school because of COVID regulations and COVID protocols. Now it becomes a problem. Even the curriculum was supposed to teach, it's a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, are you in the school that you're the principal of? Do you have online learning at this point? Obviously, it's closed now. We know that that's been the directive from the Department of Basic Education. But when you can go online, are you able to do that, or is that an option that your learners unfortunately don't have?
No, our school is in the extremely deep rural area, highly disadvantaged. The parents cannot afford the online. We just teach as it's supposed to be done, considering the COVID protocols only. The other method of teaching online is not going to be effective at our school because of the situation of the background of the parents. Yeah. It's not possible.
And that's the reality, is that, you know, you get so many organizations and different groupings calling for the closure of schools, and we understand that for the safety of both teachers and for the learners. But when learning comes to a standstill, the brains of these beautiful children stop growing and they stop absorbing the information that is so important. How do you get around that, you and your staff? How do you get around the fact? I mean, we know that, I'm part of a very lucky and privileged part of South Africa where my kids continue online, but that is not the story for everybody. How do you as a principal and your teachers navigate through these times to try and catch up this work and ensure that the little ones are not left behind?
No, because of the background of the parents, it's a problem, but we as teachers and the management, we sacrifice a lot. When learners are faced in different groups, the other groups that are not accommodated, we give ourselves a special time to accommodate them so that they are in line with the ATPs. The ATPs are the curriculum streamlines that are supposed to be taught to learners. What we need to do is that at the end of the quarter, the amount of work that's supposed to be done, we make sure that it is fully done.
I'm reading a little bit of what your beliefs are in the education system, and you are advocating for a unitary education system in South Africa. I mean, in a nutshell, what I'm reading is that you believe that our country could learn from countries like China, whose curricular reform included a systematic unification of educational institutions. Tell us your observations in terms of this particular approach. And how do you think we as a country could go about doing something like that?
Yeah, when studying the international education and comparative education, we realize that South African education system is a bit different to other countries like the developed countries like Germany, like France, and the incoming China. If you analyze and compare these two, our South African curriculum, you realize that we're still very much behind. For instance, in China, as of now, as I speak to you now, they've moved out of fourth industrial revolution. They are now on the fifth and sixth industrial revolution. I think if ever all our schools can adopt the same and also combine what was done before with what is now, our system can improve. But as of now, I doubt things are not coming right because our system of education doesn't prepare our learners for the future.
Yeah, and that's the great worry, and that's what people have been speaking to, and now in the midst of the pandemic, we're seeing countries, as you say, like China, like the US, like UK, that are much more developed, just flying ahead, and we are being left even further behind now, and this is a major problem. But one of the difficult things is that we see how much money is spent every single year in the budget from our government on education. I mean, the amount of money that is spent and the outcomes of education tell two completely different stories. You yourself have said something along the lines of that we need less politics and more practical policy implementation. What do you mean by that, and where is politics at play in the education system, and particularly from what you see on the ground?
Yeah, I'm not against politics, but according to me, the interference of politics in education is the cause of the problems as of now. If they can leave education to academics, leave education to the people who are experienced and have got an expertise about how to run education, so that our education should be designed in such a way that it is in line with the international community, it is in line with the needs of the country. But as of now, because of the politics that are in our education system, I think doesn't prepare our learners for the future. Yeah. And when we leave behind the present generation for the future, we foresee danger. Our learners cannot be able to meet the expectation of the country, cannot meet the expectation of the economic needs of the country. Then if ever we don't wake up and do something, I really predict things are not going to be good for the country. Yeah. Economically, especially, yes, it's not going to be good for the country.
You know, we've spoken previously about how some disadvantaged schools are lagging very, very much behind in many, many ways. And I mean, what you've said now is just ringing so true, is that the product that we're pushing out in terms of education and in terms of our learners, they're not equipped for this ever-changing world and to pull the country forward. And that is, at the end of the day, what you want to do, is give kids opportunities from a school like yours to come through and make these major changes. So here's your opportunity. I mean, if you had to sit down with government and say to them, this is what you need to do to help us, what is it that you would tell them?
I will tell them that the education that is here as of now, even to prepare for the future, we need to design our education in such a way that it meets the present needs and also for the future. As of now, as I said, the present education system does not meet. If you check from the new government in 1994 up to now, we've experienced a lot of changes. As of now, as teachers and the principals, some of us are confused. Some have even left the profession because of the confusion that is existing in education. But if ever we sit down and we become honest to ourselves, and we invite all the academics sit down and pave the way forward about education. Education has got no meaning if it does not address the needs of the country. More specifically, the economics. It's very important. Politics, yes, they are there, but economics, I think, forms the central stage of the development of a country. If I remember, Mandela once said, an instrument that can change the life of a laborer, a farm worker, and a domestic worker is nothing but education. If you check over African countries immediately after independence, the countries didn't last because they didn't take education to be something very serious. Countries such as China, if I indicated before, has gone very far. They sat down in 1998, paved the way forward for how to improve the country. When I speak to you now, China is excellent. Anything that you see around here is made from China. That is how the commitment of the educationists, by thinking very hard, checking that our country should be like that. Then they started to improve the education system. That is why education in China is so best, and education in China being the best now in control of the world economically.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just finally, as we really do sort of congratulate you as much as we possibly can, and it's been a pleasure listening to you, but I think your colleagues that are perhaps in underdeveloped and disadvantaged schools in rural areas, such as yourself, and you've managed to get onto a global stage at this point in time, and your voice is being heard by so many. What is that advice? Because you know, in your answer, you're saying that so many people are leaving the profession, and we can understand why, because of the circumstances that you've described to us. But what are those words of encouragement that you can pass on to them to say, keep going? It's important. What would you tell them?
Now, let me start by maybe advising teachers or the principals from the disadvantaged communities. Colleagues, the teaching profession is the mother profession, is the mother of all professions. When we enter into this profession, we didn't get into it through monetary gain. We did it because of passion. What we can do as a principals in the foundation, in the rural schools, is to ensure that our schools are improved. And we need to accept that the living condition and the background of of the community is not the same as that in the urban areas. I think commitment, staying on our job description, and also accountability can serve as a guide for all teachers and the principals who are in the rural areas. Being in the rural area doesn't mean anything. What we need to do is to implement what we have planned, is to implement what the Department of Education desires, so that at last the community is the one who benefits. In the rural area, there's no problem. For instance, in the rural areas, parents are not having that interest on education matters. It is our responsibility to ensure that all our parents in the rural areas develop a love and passion for what their learners are learning in the schools, so that the schools can cooperate cooperatively with the parents. Yeah. As of now, the situation is not that good.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll leave it there for this morning. Congratulations. We can hear there's lots of work happening behind the scenes as well. Thanks for bearing with all the noise, but it's been wonderful listening to you. Dr. Ngwako Stephen Sebopetsa, he's the principal of Rathaga Primary School in Limpopo, sharing some of his wisdom and excellent skills and best practices that have earned him recognition as the 2021 Best Principal in the Global Awards. And that's stunning.
Absolutely.
So lovely
but you know what, just listening to Dr. Sebopetsa there, you can't fake passion.
No, you can't.
And I loved listening to him because
it
comes through in everything he says, his interest in his profession, in what he does. You know, talking about where China's at, where we are at. As he says, he went into this profession not for the money.
No.
Because it is a calling, it's a vocation, and he lives it. And it comes through so clearly.
So lovely. Such a joy speaking to him. All right, we've got to just squeeze in some of your tweets because you've been responding so well to this question. You really have, and we want to get as many as we can.
Yeah.
So that's the question, and these are your views. So let's begin looking at them.
Togo says, good morning. I don't understand what is the rush in wanting to incarcerate the old man without trial. Concord should have issued a warrant of arrest for Zuma to come explain himself to the court before the judgment. It's serious constitutional error to imprison someone in absentia.
Elvisto saying, it is within the law. I do not see anything wrong from what Zuma is doing in terms of court applications. Let all processes be followed and exhausted. I'm not talking about the mob gathering vowing to lay their lives for Zuma in obstructing justice.
Simo Z says AfriForum is undermining the judiciary as usual. Their will is not being done by the Constitutional Court judges, so AfriForum must hold their hands and direct them.
Nessa, morning ladies, good morning to you. They are so right. The fact that nothing happened to him on Sunday, instead, his son and supporters were on the TV show the whole day without following COVID protocol rules, tells you he's already a free man.
Tumbedzo says, morning, this is true that JZ is getting special treatment, and it's not that the Concord wanted it this way. It's because there's already signs that if JZ can be detained, there will be consequent loss of many South Africans. So to save many lives, better not detain him.
And Tulani, it is clear that AfriForum, WMC, Zondo are the ones in persuasion on opposing the rescission application. One needs to wonder why the obsession this much. Their motion of opposing the application, it has a lot of anger within. The apex should be consistent with its past decisions.
Gifted Gift says they might be correct, but can they let the courts do their work in peace? Organizations like AfriForum are unnecessary. I mean, if we are indeed standing for reconciliation, whites burnt state vehicle and fired shots inside government building, and AfriForum was nowhere to be seen.
Gosh, all right, there we go. Thanks so much for writing in. So we'll see it now, 10 o'clock. That's, I think, when it's scheduled to begin. It is online, but there are crowds expected outside of the court anyway.
Very interesting, and yeah,